Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. The Rugby World Cup is well and truly underway now after the first week of rugby. It's been an amazing tournament so far, and now we've had a little rest and we are getting towards the second game week. So let's get through the games and preview them one by one. Starting off with France versus Uruguay. Obviously quite an easy one to predict. You've got to go with the hosts. You can't go any other way. I don't think Uruguay will be strong enough to cope with the French. They have changed their team a lot. Not many have remained from the team that beat New Zealand. Sort of expected. That probably took a lot out of them, that New Zealand game. But they go into this Uruguay game fully changed. And a name, Anthony Jalonche, is back for France. He is back and he is also captain. So we'll see how he gets on. The interesting factor about this game, though, is that it is Uruguay's first appearance for this tournament. They didn't play in the opening week. They had their bye game. So this is their opener. This is Uruguay's opener. So they'll be coming into this fresh. No game time. They've had longer to prepare. Not that it will mean much because France have had a much changed squad, and probably a squad that themselves was preparing for this game. So it'll be interesting to see how Uruguay get on, how they can cope against the French, if they can push the French. I don't think they will. France should come through it, and they should come through it with flying colours. I expect probably about a 50-point margin for a France victory. Then we move on to the game that is on Friday night. Another most likely whitewash. New Zealand versus Namibia. It feels like these two play against each other every single year in a World Cup. And yeah, another easy one. New Zealand have put out a very strong lineup for this game against Namibia. So yeah, Namibia showed themselves quite well against Italy in their opener. But they tailed off towards the end. But this is just going to be too strong. New Zealand will run riot. Namibia will probably hope just to not have a bigger points difference than what they had in the last World Cup. But yeah, this will be a whitewash for me, and New Zealand will go through this one as well with a bonus point. The first interesting one of the weekend is Samoa versus Chile. Now, Chile really showed themselves really well. I didn't watch the full game, to be honest. I was at work at the time. But I did watch half an hour of it, and then I watched the highlights when I came back. And from what I saw, especially from that first half an hour, Chile really gave Japan a good old go in that game. And they had them on the ropes. They had them shook as well. I don't think Japan were really expecting Chile to be that good. But Samoa, they come into this game, first game for Samoa, and they obviously would have watched that Chile versus Japan game, so they'll know what to expect from Chile now. They'll know how they play. They're very physical and they like to run with the ball, but so do Samoa, so it will be a very similar game. I do see Samoa winning it. Chile just seem to give away too many penalties. They seem a bit too overeager in that first game, so that might pop up again. But Samoa are a very strong outfit this year and probably a bolter for a quarter-final spot, and they'll be aiming for that. And they'll want to start off well, and obviously, as I said, it's their opener for Samoa, so they'll want to go into this one all guns blazing, and I do think they will eventually come out on top against the Chileans. The second game on Saturday is Wales versus Portugal, another one that will most likely be a whitewash. Wales have made a lot of changes for this one as well. It's a lot of players who didn't play in the opener against Fiji are playing in this one against Portugal. It seems like a very attacking lineup for Wales, so it seems like they'll play some attacking rugby. Portugal, they haven't announced their squad as I'm recording this, but it is also their opener, so they will want to prove themselves, and to be fair, it's probably a bit like Chile for this one, where Portugal haven't been in a World Cup since 2007. Not many big names have played against them, so you don't really know what to expect from them, and I don't know what to expect from them. So coming in as an unknown entity could probably be quite good for Portugal when they can show us what they're about in that game against Wales and maybe put them on the ropes a little bit. But Wales should come through this eventually. It'll be the fitness again, as it usually is, that will tell. If Portugal are in the game at half time, they'll probably lose out eventually and move on to lose the game. I do think Wales will get through this one. And I think they'll get the bonus point like they did against Fiji. And then we've got Ireland versus Tonga. Now, this one's being billed as a potential shock. Yeah, I can see why, because Tonga have a lot of players that used to play for New Zealand. You know, you got your like Charles Piatows, you've got your Malachi Fekitoas who are playing for Tonga now, and it looks like a much stronger lineup. But Ireland were ruthless against Romania, and they weren't even playing at their best. Like, there were parts of that Ireland game that they could have scored over 100 points if they really wanted to, but they weren't really a 10 out of 10 in that game. I'd say they were only a 7 or an 8, which is scary because Ireland could get better, and they've just smashed Romania. So I don't think Tonga will get anything from it. It will be interesting to see how they do, and I think there'll be a lot of passion in that Tongan squad, especially with the changeovers and the players who have changed over to play for Tonga. So I'm intrigued to see how all those players get on. I do think that Ireland will be too strong. I do hope Tonga cause an upset somewhere because that would be quite entertaining, but I don't think it will be this one, and I think Ireland should come through this. And then we've got one that will probably be quite a big scoreline, South Africa versus Romania. Now, South Africa will definitely win this game. I watched that Romania game, and Ireland were running through them, and I expect South Africa to do exactly the same. The only interesting thing on this South Africa-Romania game is the fact that South Africa picked 4 scrum halves. So it's interesting how they're going to go about that. It's Reinach starting at scrum half, Williams is on the wing, and then Faf de Klerk and Hendrickse are both on the bench. So it's going to be interesting how they use that. It'll be quite entertaining to see if Faf de Klerk and Hendrickse come on, and Cobus Reinach and Grant Williams stay on the pitch, and then all 4 scrum halves are on at once. That would be quite entertaining. But yeah, bar that, that's the interesting part of that game. South Africa should fly through this one. Then, the big game of the weekend, Australia versus Fiji. Now, Fiji are going to be very wounded. They were very unlucky against Wales. Couple of decisions didn't go their way. Maybe Wales should have had another yellow card. I do think Fiji left it a bit too late to make that comeback. They started off the second half a bit poorly, but the majority of that game Fiji were very, very good. Australia were good against Georgia, especially in that first half. The second half they looked a little bit shaky, but I think that was more just them trying to control the game and not letting Georgia come back in it more than anything. And try and save themselves for this game because this is a huge one. Obviously, Fiji want to reach the quarters. They lost to Wales, so this is a pretty much a playoff game for Fiji now. Not so much for Australia as they won the first one, so Fiji have more on the line on this game because if they lose it, they probably won't be able to make it into the quarters. So there'll be more on the line for Fiji, so I expect a bigger, stronger Fijian performance, and there'll be a wounded animal as well, so they will go even harder. But saying that, the Aussies will know most of the Fijians from playing in Super Rugby, and they will know how Fiji play, and it's difficult to predict, to be honest, but I feel like Fiji can get through this. I feel like Fiji might get through this one against Australia, to be honest. I feel like they're wounded, they'll want something, it's a playoff game pretty much for them, and they've got nothing to lose, and a Fiji with nothing to lose is going to be scary, and I think they'll be victorious. Yeah, I think they'll do it. I think they'll do it against Australia. And then England versus Japan, another fairly interesting one. England actually played really well against Argentina. Brilliant victory, brilliant performance by George Ford, but they didn't score a try, which is a little bit worrying on their part. They didn't even really, to me, look like they were ever going to score a try in that game. They were just feeding off Argentinian errors, kicking points when possible, But this is a World Cup. It doesn't matter how you win, as long as you win. But if Japan don't concede as many penalties as Argentina, this game might be very close. I do think England will do it. I do think England will win, and they will score tries in this game because Japan's defence is a little bit fragile from time to time. We saw that against Chile. They can get torn open. England are definitely good enough to score tries, so I think they will. But it will be a close game. I do think England will eventually go through victorious. Will Japan get a bonus point? Possibly. I think Japan will probably need a bonus point. If they are going to lose it, they'll probably need a bonus point. But yeah, I do think England will eventually come out victorious. So there we have it then. That is my preview and predictions of these upcoming game week. I will hopefully try and do a review of the game week and see how many I got correct, see how many I got wrong. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in a bit.